Blunder Bros is a game that came out on Game Boy Advance back in the day, but I played it on Steam, and this is actually the second time I've played through this game on PC, and I really love it. How's it going, everyone? It's Caleb Lumberty here, and today we are talking about this game that I don't think many people know about, or at least they don't talk about, and that game is Blunder Bros, a really fun 2D side-scrolling platforming game with some really neat ideas and some really cool level designs. So let's go ahead and hop right into it. So first things first, Blunder Bros is a 2D platforming game, and all the platforming in this game does feel really, really good. All the controls are very smooth. They're all very responsive. Everything that you want from a platforming game, this game provides, and it does it very well. And one thing that I really like is that this game kind of plays around with its background. There's certain areas in this game where, while it's a 2D, side-scrolling game, you'll be able to pick up things like tomatoes, and you'll be able to throw them in the background of the levels, which is a really cool idea. So, like, sometimes you'll see a layer, and you'll see enemies in the background, and you'll be able to pick up a tomato, and you'll be able to throw it in the background and hit those enemies that are just, like, walking around in the background, which is really cool. And there's sometimes where you're going to need to do that, because sometimes there's buttons you need to push, and they're in the background, and there's no way to get to them, so you have to take a tomato, and you have to throw it towards the background to be able to press the button to move forward. I really like that they were playing around with this kind of like 2D, but like kind of still making it feel 3D by having these backgrounds and stuff. I like that they kind of played around with that. It's really cool, actually. And not just the regular 2D levels they play around with. There's actually some more stuff they played around with in this game. There's actually driving levels in this game. There's some levels where you have to disarm a bomb, and during these levels you have to collect 4 keys, and if you collect all the 4 keys and you get to the bomb, you can disarm the bomb. And you have to drive in a little, basically think of like a cart in Mario Kart. You're basically driving in a little Mario Kart vehicle, and you're just trying to collect all the keys before the timer runs out and get to the bomb so you can disarm the bomb. And it's such a cool idea, and it's actually done very well, and it controls very, very smoothly. And I enjoy this game quite a bit. Graphically, it's not the best looking game. You gotta realize that this is a Game Boy Advance game, so it's kind of like blown up really big and everything, especially when you're playing on PC. It doesn't look the greatest, but it's not terrible. It's still plenty playable. And so even though the graphics aren't amazing, I still think that you can look past it easily because the gameplay itself is very, very fun. Just like in almost every platforming game, you do have like the small little grunt enemies that you run across, and you can knock them down and, get little bones. Bones are like the currency that you can use in this game, and I've honestly never really found out what they're for. I've beaten this game twice, and I still don't really understand what they're for. You can basically use them to buy vinyl records for music, but I don't really understand why you need to. I don't mess with that stuff. I just play through the main campaign, so that stuff, I guess it's just an extra thing you can do if you want, but I don't really care about that. I care about the game itself, and the game itself is a lot of fun, and playing through all these levels is a lot of fun. Now, this game does have a little bit of a twist to it, and it is the fact that you kind of get like this little sidekick alien ball thing that flies around you. And you actually get to collect them in each level. You can try to collect new ones, and if you collect a new one, each new one has a different ability. So you have to actually kind of be picky about which one you want to use in each level, because you can only use one in a level, and each one is very unique and has its own unique ability. So there's some that will give you an ability to press a button and get some health back, which is a very useful ability, especially in boss fights. And then there's some that will just give you a quicker attack. There's some that will light up dark rooms. Like, there's some rooms you can't go into unless you have a certain one of these little alien guys following you around, because he'll be able to light up the room for you for a short period of time. And there's all sorts of different abilities that they have like that, so you kind of have to decide which one of these little alien ball things, you have to decide which one you want to use for the level. How are you going to go at this level? And if you are losing during a boss fight, you may consider swapping to a different one of these little floating dudes, because if you swap to a different one that has a different ability, maybe it can help you with the boss. I know I definitely had to do that in the final boss fight. The boss fights in this game are challenging. They are some tough boss fights. Sometimes they do feel cheap, I will say. Sometimes some of the deaths in this game do feel cheap in general, I will say. But if you're able to look past that, I still think that this game is a pretty darn good game. Now, the actual boss fights they're well designed, they're fun, there is a way to beat them, but you kind of have to pay attention to patterns, and you have to pay attention to the signals that the bosses are giving out. You know, they all have little tells that they do before they're about to do a move, and it gives you time to counteract whatever they're about to do. And if you do fail to recognize a boss pattern, you know, you can just continue. This game has continue, so if you run out of lives, you can just press continue, and it will give you 3 more lives. And you can try to do the boss battle again, and this time at least you'll realize, oh, this was the pattern that it has. I messed up last time. Now I know the pattern, I recognize the pattern, and I can avoid whatever his attack may be. So, the boss fights are, even though they're difficult and sometimes not always fair, I still like the majority of them. The majority of them are fair, the majority of them are very well done. The only 2 that I found kind of to be a little bit unfair are I think they're the 2 last boss fights. One where you're facing this, like, bee lady, and she's kind of, like, annoying to face. And then the actual very final boss fight is really annoying because the final boss can heal. And I don't like bosses that can heal when you've already done so much damage to them. But the final boss can heal, and honestly, I had to swap around, you know, my little sidekick guy constantly on the final boss fight to figure out which one was working. Because I tried to do the one that would give me one of my hearts back, one of my health pieces back. I tried that, and that wasn't working. I tried one that let me attack faster. That wasn't working. And I eventually found one that let me ignore 1 damage. So whenever I activated it and I get hit, it would act like I didn't actually get hit, and that's what I used to beat the final boss, and it did help quite a bit. And you can't just spam those abilities either. You do have to let those abilities recharge after you use them, so it's not like you can just spam that ability over and over and over again. No, you use it once, you get hit, then you gotta avoid all his attacks all over again, and if you don't, you're gonna have to redo the boss fight, because he's gonna get you. But overall, this is a really fun game. Even though there are some cheap deaths, like I saw that when I was playing it the other day, and there was these like cannons shooting at me. The lasers of the cannons, or the bullets, or whatever you want to call them, of the cannons were coming out, and they weren't actually hitting my character. They were hitting like in front of me, but they were still registering. I guess I was still too close because they were registering that I was still getting hit by them. And that kind of felt a little bit cheap. So, it's not perfect. There's definitely issues. But if you can look past its issues, I think that this is still a really fun game. I've beaten it twice now, and I mean, maybe I'll beat it again later on this year. Who knows? It's a fun game, and I highly recommend it. And again, it's one of those games that is perfect if you are wanting to use a retro controller. I used my Neo Geo retro controller by 8BitDo during this, my clickety-clackety controller, and I really enjoyed using that. And this game is very responsive if you're using a controller. So I think that, you know, if you are someone that's wanting to play this old-fashioned style, hey, pick up maybe a Super Nintendo controller, pick up one of these Neo Geo controllers, pick up some sort of retro controller and play through it. You know, pick up something that feels like the old Game Boy Advance if you want to play through it. And I think you're going to have a fun time. But thank you guys for watching. I hope that you enjoyed this video. Go check out Blender Bros. It's not very expensive. I think it's like usually $12 or $13. It's not very much. And I think when I picked it up on sale for like $5 or $6. So if you can pick it up on sale, that's a really good deal. But even at $12, $13, I still don't think that's really too bad for it. I don't know how much it is on Game Boy Advanced. I can only tell you how much it is on PC because that's what I played it on. But I have no idea what the price of it is on Game Boy Advanced. But hopefully it's cheap. Hopefully it's cheap, and if you want to play it the original way, hopefully that version of it is good too. Because this version on PC is really good. I'll talk to you next time. You have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.